Caden Proctor is a Hawkeye. Trevor Lauck is a Hawkeye. Who else? Who else is going to join the 2023 Iowa football recruiting class that is buzzing, perhaps more than any other class in the Kirk Ferentz era? Give my predictions as to how many more recruits from this past weekend of official visits will end up committing to Iowa football. I think a couple of them will commit soon. We'll talk about it. Recruiting momentum, plus an exclusive interview with 2024 Iowa basketball commit Cooper Koch. The legacy commit discusses his reasons for joining the Iowa Hawkeyes and his special relationship with his father and mentor, Hawkeye great J.R. Koch. All that and much more during week 197 of Brada's Branded Thoughts. This is from the Hawkeye of the Storm. You may have heard of the real-life Hawkeye man cave known as Kinnick Under the Kitchen. Well, after lots of hard work, there's not much space left to paint, but the walls are exploding out for public consumption. Under the Kitchen is proud to announce that you can now purchase exclusive prints of some of your favorite Hawkeye legends, including wrestling great Spencer Lee, football players Tyler Goodson, Riley Moss, and Drew Tate, plus an all-in-one Murray family legacy print featuring Keegan, Chris, and Kenyon Murray himself. Signed and unsigned prints are available, making the perfect collectible or gift for any Hawkeye enthusiast. For more information on purchasing one of these outstanding Hawkeye prints, visit Under the Kitchen on Facebook. That's Under the Kitchen on Facebook. So I'll just be frank with everybody here listening to this podcast. I'm recording this now on June 30th, Thursday, June 30th at 4:30 p.m. And I'll just tell you this. Leading up to today, I kept telling myself, okay, I got to get this podcast released. I want to get this podcast released because I really enjoyed my sit down with Iowa basketball 2024 commit Cooper Koch. And I wanted to make sure to get this video published. But of course, we couldn't have published. I could not have published this video without talking about Caden Proctor. And I kept thinking to myself, all right, when's he going to announce? When is he going to announce? When is he going to announce? So I start recording today at about noon. And I get done recording. And I look on Twitter and I see a notification from Caden Proctor announcing today at 1 p.m. So just like that, all the work I've done with this podcast is obsolete. So I trashed it. I sent it to the recycling bin and I went ahead and got a live show prepped. And I did a live show for 2.5 hours this afternoon. And I was happy to do it. I enjoyed doing it. But man, what a day. I'm glad that in hindsight, I guess if there was a time to have a podcast become obsolete by the time I got done recording it, it was on the day that Caden Proctor committed to Iowa. What a decision. We know the storylines. Highest rated recruit in Iowa Hawkeye history, Iowa Hawkeye football history. According to 247 Sports, no one has ever come to Iowa with a higher ranking. All right. Now, here's the deal. They're going to have to keep recruiting him. The bottom line is this guy could very easily be re-recruited by Alabama, by Oregon, by Penn State, these schools. I think he's loyal to his commitment. I really don't know him or his family very well at all. I've never met Caden. I've had a little bit of interaction with Kevin Perkins. The family seems very nice. Doesn't seem like Caden loves the fanfare. He ended up committing on Twitter. Didn't have, not that I'm aware of, any live special announcement like Xavier Wampa did. Nothing on KCCI or WHO TV, local stations here in the state of Iowa. He wanted to just have this moment. And you respect a kid for that. And that's what makes me think he's loyal to his commitment. Certainly when you get him signed in December, you'll feel better. Although the era of the transfer portal, guys can leave at any point for just about any reason, especially with the one-time immediate eligibility exemption. So congratulations to Caden Proctor. What does this do moving forward for Iowa football? Iowa recruiting all across the offensive line at a very high level right now. Now, they've recruited a lot of guys that I perceive to be tackles. And as they continue to get these commitments rolling in, certainly Caden Proctor is the number one guy on their board, but they've had a number of other successful recruiting pitches. Trevor Lauck is a guy who committed. He was here over the weekend. He committed on Sunday. He's a four-star kid, had offers from the likes of Ohio State, Michigan State, a lot of really high major offers. So they're getting these bigger bodies. Lauck at 6'6", 287, Proctor 6'7", 335. Big, big bodies. Now, Proctor's a tackle. Believe you me, he ain't going to be playing on the inside. But I think what we're seeing from Iowa might be a somewhat of a shift in philosophy. And I'm going to publish more content in the coming weeks on this potential shift in philosophy. Is it because of George Barnett? Is it just something that Kirk Ferentz, he's an offensive line guru. I mean, that's his background as being an offensive line coach. Perhaps he realized that, hey, I haven't really recruited with a distinct eye for size. Is there a big difference between 285 and 295 or 300? And it seems like in the past, he's kind of argued that we just would rather get the right guy that understands our system, that wants to play in our system. And now it seems like, not that they devalue that, they certainly are still going to be cognizant of character. And obviously with Iowa's zone blocking scheme, they have to have the right personnel there. But the guys they're recruiting right now are big guys. So let's take a look at some of the commits they have as of right now. And I'm going to go back to the 2022 class. So that's actually this year, guys that are here right now. Cale Crow, standing at 6'6", 265. He's going to need to put on some weight, but at 6'6", I mean, he's likely a tackle. The way he's built, he's likely a tackle. I've got some friends that are actually friends with the Crow family, and they've said the same thing. He's pretty much a tackle. I don't really see a scenario where he ends up moving inside. Jack Dotzler at 6'7", 265. I don't see him playing guard. That's the 22 class. 23 class, we've got Caden Proctor, who's obviously a tackle at 6'7", 6'8", 335. Trevor Lauk at 6'6", 285. Now, he's built like a tackle, but I could see him moving inside to guard potentially. We talked about Cannon Leonard on a recent segment. He's 6'9", 265. So maybe he ends up playing on defense at some point, but 6'9", 6'9"? I don't see a 6'9" guard / center in the Big Ten. Not happening. So Iowa is recruiting with a view to size, but some of these guys are going to have to move around because they can't play them all. So maybe my estimation of a guy like Cale Crow is wrong. Maybe he will end up playing guard at 6'6". Certainly, I would say as of right now that maybe the number one guy I could foresee playing guard moving forward would be Trevor Lauk. Just the way he's built, he's 6'6", 285. They've got a kid in the 2024 class named Cody Fox. He's an Iowa guy. He's at 6'4", 265. He's an interior guy. All right, but we're looking at just at 22 and 23. I see 5 tackles, 5 offensive tackles. So I don't see all of those guys staying on the outside because they can't all play. And I don't see Iowa recruiting all these bodies and taking them if they don't believe that there's some flexibility in there. But let's take a look at some of the recruits that were on campus this past weekend. The tremendous news today that Caden Proctor is coming to Iowa. Certainly that's going to help momentum. It's a national storyline, and it will help Iowa in the recruiting ranks and the recruiting trail, hopefully to land some more skill position players, specifically wide receiver, because they're in need there. But let's take a look at the list. So I ran through this during a recent edition of Hawkeye Hangout, but Caden Proctor, of course, was number 1 on the list, 5-star from Southeast Polk. Trevor Lauk, number 2, 4-star out of Indianapolis. How about Kenneth Merriweather? He is a defensive end from the Detroit area. He took official visits to Purdue, Iowa, and Cincinnati. Also holds offers from Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Oregon, Pitt, Syracuse, and some other G5 schools. His official visit went well, I was told. I would not be surprised to see him end up being a Hawkeye, but we'll have to wait and see. Asa Newsome, linebacker from Waverly, Iowa. So the only in-state kid that I'm aware of that was on an official visit this past weekend that had not already committed. Official visits already taken to Kansas State, Minnesota, Iowa, Stanford. Has also taken unofficial visits to Nebraska, Missouri, has an offer from South Dakota. Linebacker with good size at 6'4", 205. Really good pursuit to the ball. Again, size seems to be a priority. This on the other side of the ball. Kendrick Gilbert, strong side defensive end from Indianapolis, has a top 4, announced a top 4 earlier this week after his official visit to Iowa. His top 4 is as follows: Iowa, LSU, Kentucky, Purdue. He's also got offers from Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Minnesota, Cincinnati, and some other Power 5 schools. Very highly touted kid at 6'5", 270. He's a big guy for his age. He's a big guy at 6'5", 270. Chris Tarek, he was another offensive tackle, the big guy, 6'6", 295. There was some good speculation that he may end up a Hawkeye. He ended up committing to Wisconsin this week. So Tarek is off the board. had committed to Wisconsin over Iowa, Michigan, and Illinois, along with some others. He is an Illinois native. Khalil Tate was also on campus this past weekend. He's a safety from Chicago. Iowa already has a defensive back from the Chicago area from Marist High School. That would be John Nestor, but Khalil Tate's got official visits already taken to Iowa, Wisconsin, Purdue. He also visited Illinois and Notre Dame. He's got offers from the likes of Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Oregon, Tennessee, Michigan, Colorado, more schools. I mean, he's got a nice offer list. He also played wide receiver in high school. He's a good athlete, and if Iowa can't seem to get wide receivers, maybe Khalil Tate ends up getting a look down the road. Zach Ortworth also on campus this past weekend for an official visit. St. Louis tight end has taken official visits to Iowa, Minnesota, Pitt, and Wisconsin. Unofficials to Illinois, Nebraska, Kansas, Notre Dame, Miami, Ohio. By the way, all this information according to Rivals.com. It's all public on Rivals.com. Ortworth also has offers from West Virginia, Illinois, Indiana, Memphis, Louisville, Purdue, UConn, Eastern Michigan. Ortworth, a kid that I would think would be pretty high on the list for Iowa. Iowa has struggled at tight end, surprisingly, for this 23 class. Mac Markway being one that they lost. They lost a couple of others, one to Miami. But Ortworth would be a good get because he is wanted by some high major schools. Jerron Tibbs, a wide receiver, 6'4", 193-pound wide receiver from the Indianapolis area, committed to Purdue over Iowa earlier this week. There were rumors that actually Purdue may have kind of meddled in his Iowa visit. There are reports out there that maybe Iowa wasn't real happy with how Purdue handled the situation when Jerron Tibbs was on campus. I can neither confirm nor deny that, but that is the report. That's the rumor that's out there. But he ended up committing to Purdue. It's going to be hard to pull local kids that Purdue wants, especially at skill position spots, especially at receivers. Jerron Tibbs ends up being a Boilermaker. Trevor Boer, another one that Iowa loses to a rival, Iowa State, taking Trevor Boer. He's a defensive tackle from Washington, Missouri. Iowa was his only other official visit. So a loss there because it looked like maybe Iowa State were his top two. Offers from Washington, Kentucky, Illinois, Kansas, Minnesota, Texas A&M, etc. So pretty highly touted defensive tackle at 6'4", 265. George Burhen, another tight end that was on campus this past weekend for an official visit. He stands at 6'5", 215 pounds. He's an Indiana kid, has official visits already taken to Iowa State, Purdue, and Iowa. Boy, you'd love to get that one over to the Boilermakers and the Cyclones, two teams that have been thorns in the side of Iowa at times on the recruiting trail. Burhen also has offers from the likes of Virginia Tech, Michigan State, Rutgers, Vanderbilt, and others. And then finally, Jordan Allen, a defensive end, who I would guess would also be fairly high on Iowa's list right now after losing Boer. Although Boer was a tackle, Allen projected as a defensive end. He's from Olathe South, so that's Kansas City area. Not the same school as Arlen Bruce. Arlen Bruce attended Olathe North. Allen has taken official visits to Iowa State, Missouri, and Iowa. An unofficial to Kansas State, holds offers from Washington, USC, Kansas, Illinois, and others. He's at 6'4", 240. All those guys, 3 stars. Besides Kendrick Gilbert, he's ranked as a 4-star according to Rivals. So that's where Iowa's at right now with recruiting. They have lost out on a couple with Tarek and Tibbs, along with Boer. One guy I kind of skipped over, and that's Logan Howland from the Hun School out in New Jersey. So he's actually teammates with Marco Lainez, who was on the show last time out here at Brada's Branded Thoughts from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Howland, also an offensive tackle at 6'7", 280. I don't think, from what I've been told, the Caden Proctor announcement has no impact on Howland's decision. So again, I think Iowa, they look like they're just trying to get flexible and be able to get a lot of big bodies in there. Again, he's 6'7", 280. They want a lot of bodies. He's announced the top 4 as follows: Iowa, Oklahoma, Miami, and Michigan. He's taken official visits to all 4. He's teammates with Marco Lainez, lined up as a tight end throughout much of his junior year. Logan Howland, and boy, that'd be a big get over 3 Blue Bloods in Oklahoma, Michigan, and Miami, but we'll wait and see on Logan. So congratulations again to Caden Proctor and Kirk Ferentz and Tyler Barnes and Brian Ferentz and George Barnett. Those guys are recruiting at a really high level right now, and I've been critical of Brian and Kirk at times, but you got to give credit where credit is due. Right now, they're recruiting at a level that I didn't think possible, especially with the era of NIL, and there have been rumors that NIL was very much a part of Caden Proctor's recruitment. Can't confirm or deny that either. But the bottom line is Iowa was able to land him. They were able to land his counterpart, Xavier Wampa, who will be on the field this fall. With the way they develop, and now you're starting to see an uptick in recruiting. I believe 247 Sports has them as the number 15 class in the country, which might actually be a bit low, in my opinion, although I'm no recruiting guru, at least from a national perspective. I certainly don't have my feelers out there on the national scene, but Iowa doing a really nice job on the recruiting trail. And Kirk Ferentz, even at his age, deserves a ton of credit for that. Give credit where credit is due, and that will help the quarterback position. As you and I both know, you can protect the quarterback, you can run the football better. It's going to make better quarterback play and make your offense better. Iowa still a lot of other areas where they've got to improve other than just offensive line, and certainly some of that improvement has to come this year, and these guys are 23, 24 guys, so they're going to have to make a bump this year. But again, just a tremendous stretch of recruiting for Iowa Hawkeye football. And how about Iowa Hawkeye basketball? We have Keegan Murray getting drafted in the first round of the NBA draft, top 5, actually number 4 overall, the Sacramento Kings. But earlier in the day, you had Brock Harding out of the Moline area, 3-star kid who I think is really underrated, has got some sick handles. The guy can shoot from 3, kind of like your Jordan Bohannon, except no offense to Jordan, but Brock's got insane sick handles. He's quick, he's athletic. I really like the fact that they offered and got a quick commitment out of Brock Harding. But how about Cooper Koch, 2024 kid who we know has been high on Iowa's radar for quite some time. His dad, JR, was a star back in the 90s under Dr. Tom Davis. We actually had JR Koch on one of our post-game shows, a couple of our post-game shows. But Cooper announcing last Thursday that he has committed to be a Hawkeye, which gives Iowa some nice leverage for future recruiting for that 2024 class. Cooper standing at about 6'8". He can shoot the 3. He can rebound. What a get for Iowa, a 4-star kid who had a number of other Big Ten offers. And frankly, I just can't wait until Cooper Koch is an Iowa Hawkeye in a couple of years. He's a very mild-mannered kid, and he seems to really have a passion. He grew up as an Iowa fan, so he's got a passion for the black and gold. So we're going to talk with Cooper Koch about why he decided on Iowa and how much of an influence his dad was, because believe you me, J.R. Koch let Cooper go through the recruiting process, but of course a little brainwashing on the side never hurts for the legacy recruit Cooper Koch. So we're going to talk with Cooper Koch right after this break. Let's take a moment to talk about health and performance optimization. I've decided to partner with Ascent Nutrition because of its unique approach to human health. Now, Ascent is endorsed by several neuroscientists, doctors, vets, and even strength and conditioning coaches across the country. Now, they've got organic coffee, which is mold and mycotoxin free. It's full of pure, clean, rich taste, and it's healthy for you. Algae oil DHA, it's used to support brain health, memory, focus, proper nervous system development in young children. It's even healthy for pets. And lastly, they have their unique wild-crafted pine pollen, which supports cardiovascular health, hormonal function, and a healthy libido. Click the links in the description below and use the code Hawkeyes to receive 10% off your order from Ascent Nutrition. Pleased to be joined now by Iowa class of 2024 commit Cooper Koch, and a guy that I know Iowa basketball fans are excited about. I'm hyped about. Cooper, first of all, thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy with workouts. Thank you for taking the time to jump on the show. How does it feel to be official? I know you're not signed yet, but how does it feel to actually have announced that you're committed to the Hawkeyes?
It's definitely a big relief off my shoulders, and now I can just focus on basketball and getting better for high school and college.
So I have to ask you my first question off the bat, your dad's impact. I mean, like this, everybody knows your dad's a huge homer, rightfully so, right? I mean, he is J.R. Koch. But what's it been like growing up with J.R. Koch as your dad, and how big of a Hawkeye fan have you been your entire life?
We've been huge Hawkeye fans. He's been the biggest impact out of anybody. Always getting me to go to the gym from an early age. He used to coach a high school team, and I remember some pictures of me just sitting in there watching practices. And then being my coach from 3rd grade to 8th grade, he's just been amazing father and coach all throughout.
Who's taller, you or JR?
He's got me by a few inches, but hopefully I can get him in the next year.
So that's my next question. What is your growth process like right now? I mean, not to get too personal, but I mean, like, how much have you grown over the past couple of years, and are you currently still growing?
I've grown like 3 inches over the past 2 years. Not much in the last year, but I'm predicted to be like 6'10", so around his height.
So 6'10" with I've of course seen you. I've not been able to see you in person. Before we went live here, I was just telling you that I've got some family in Canton, so I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person this coming year.
Mhm.
But you've got some guard skills at 6. I mean, are you a true 6'8" right now?
Yeah, true 6'8".
So you got some guard skills. So who do you emulate your game after? If anybody, it doesn't have to be a former Hawkeye, anybody in the world.
I don't really think I emulate it out off of a person individually. I like to take bits and pieces from people. Like I like to think of like a Kevin Durant, but also like a Jack Nungy in the post type of player.
So Jack Nungy in the post, Iowa fans, we understand the situation as to why Jack Nungy went back closer to home, but what he's done at Xavier has been incredible. So kind of a mix between Jack and certainly Kevin Durant has been the epitome in this century of a big with guard skills, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to sum your game up in a few words, how would you describe your game for those that haven't seen you?
Shooter that can, if he gets a rebound, bring it up, and then if he has a guy his height or smaller, be able to post up and score inside.
And so right now, according to Rivals, you're sitting at 205. What's your ideal weight?
Around 205. I want to get to 215, 212 before the start of this basketball season.
Now, your dad, if I recall, was a little bit. I mean, he was not a real big guy, but I mean, he could bang down low.
Yeah.
What's it like playing against your dad? Do you take him?
A few years ago we would play, but not anymore. His knees are long gone.
Is that a sore excuse or is that legit?
Maybe a little of both.
Okay. I have to ask you this question, Cooper. So this is a question I'll just admit we talked about before we started recording. I thought the timing of your commitment last Thursday was rather peculiar, and not in a bad way. But you have your commitment earlier in the day, and then we get word that Brock Harding's committing, and then we watch the NBA draft and see Keegan Murray go number 4 overall, the highest draft pick in Iowa basketball history. And I'll just be honest, my first thought was this seems a little bit too lined up. Like those stars lined up a little bit too succinctly, if that makes sense. But you told me this was not calculated. Can you tell our fans or tell our listeners how this came about, how your commitment came about?
The day before on Wednesday, me and Brock were up at Coach Spear's retirement party. And I told them then that I was committing and coming to Iowa. And then I announced it on Thursday. And then I actually had no idea that Brock was doing it. I was out golfing. And then I saw that he had committed.
Wow. So you did not know that Brock was going to be committing.
Somebody actually sent it to me.
Did you have the feel when you were together the day before that you were both sold?
I think that was his first time going up there. So I didn't really talk to him much, but we've been close. We've been talking a little. I'm
curious, what is your relationship like with Brock? Explain to me. I'm assuming you guys don't play each other on the high school circuit, but what's your playing experience with each other like?
We haven't played with each other much. I've seen him at like open gyms and stuff. I'm actually closer with Owen Freeman, who's already committed. We've been up to games together a few times.
And so you talk about the future of Iowa basketball. And this kind of leads into my next question as to why Iowa. And I know we can go a ton of different directions here because certainly your dad had an impact, I'm sure. It sounds like you really have a lot of respect for Kirk Spura, who's retiring, and obviously Fran McCaffrey and the coaching staff. But I want to ask you specifically about Matt Gatens. Did Drake recruit you?
Not that I know of. Maybe a little.
Okay, I know I'm all over with this question, but I'm assuming you'd met Matt Gatens before he was hired?
I had not. I know my dad had met his dad a lot.
Okay. Yeah, Mike's pretty prominent in the Iowa City community. So how do you feel now with a young guy kind of coming in, I don't say replacing Spura, but in essence he is. What has been your first impression from Matt Gatens?
He's been awesome. He's been to 2 of my basketball high school weekends, and he's very chill, even-keeled, but I know he's a great player and a great coach.
And as far as shooting the ball, there's not many guys that I can think of in this generation that had a more pure stroke than Matt Gatens and played during a kind of a difficult time in Iowa basketball history. Courtney Eldridge, another guy who has now been elevated. He is one of the 3 main assistants now as Billy Taylor takes his leave. What's your relationship like and your first impression of Courtney?
They're all awesome. We've gone up. I've been going to basketball camps since I was young, and they've all been like talking to me. So I like all of them. They're all great guys.
What about Fran? What's your overall impression of Coach McCaffrey?
He's awesome. He likes to joke around a lot. He's always been joking with me at the camps, and he always jokes with my brother about when he's gonna commit and stuff like that. So he's an awesome guy.
And so, if you had to sum all this up, why Iowa? You had a number of options, and Cooper, I think I can say this. I'm no recruiting expert, but I can venture to say that you would have had other offers rolling in. I mean, you're still 24, but you didn't delay this decision. Why Iowa and why now?
Just because of how Coach McCaffrey just lets you play free. He lets you just be yourself out there. He doesn't try to put you in a role and you stay in that role. If you're a shooter, he lets you shoot the ball, and if you miss, he's not going to take you out. He'll keep you in the game.
And I've heard a lot of Iowa players say the same thing about Fran McCaffrey. Now, let me circle back to this. We kind of led the conversation with this subject, but what was your dad? We've heard it from your dad, JR, talked about how he really tried to take a back seat to the recruiters and just you and really heading up your own recruitment. But I remember him using the term brainwash. He said, I brainwashed Cooper enough already. So what has it been like having J.R. Koch as your dad since you started getting recruited?
It's a great thing having him already gone through the process and being able to feed off of him. And he definitely brainwashed me as a young kid. But once we got to the process, I think he kind of let me feel it out, go to schools, see how I liked them. But in the end, Iowa was the right place for me.
And just for anybody that doesn't know, according to Rivals, and maybe Cooper, you're going to tell me that there's a school in here that I'm missing, but Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, Wake Forest, Western Illinois, Wisconsin, Bradley all offered. According to Rivals, UCLA, Stanford, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Cincinnati all were in on you as well. You took visits to Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Am I missing anything in there?
I've also taken visits to Purdue and Indiana, but
yeah. Purdue and Indiana. What were those experiences like? Because those are obviously, I want to say Big Ten juggernauts, but traditional Big Ten schools. Did you ever bat an eye during this process, or was it more of I want to kind of just give myself due process? Did you ever bat an eye and question, hey, maybe I want to go to a blue blood?
There's always like lingering thoughts, but in the end, I kind of wanted to stay in the Midwest and a little bit closer to home. So even if they did offer me, it would have been a little backseat thought to the Midwest, like Wisconsin, Purdue, and Iowa.
I have to ask you this. Life in Peoria. Peoria is a very unique area. So people think of, outsiders, people who aren't from the Midwest, they think of Illinois and they think of Chicago. But if you're from either Peoria or Canton or Galesburg or that area, life is totally different than the Chicago area. What's it been like growing up in Peoria, Illinois?
There's a lot of great basketball schools. DeMonte Williams, who went to Manual, and Sean Livingston, who's played many years in the NBA. So I think it's a great basketball town, having a bunch of people come through here that have been great. And now I think it's coming back to life with a bunch of young people.
And I asked you this before too, but you're not a Bradley fan, right?
I am, but I haven't gone to many games.
Okay. Cause they were in on you, of course. But again, in the end, Iowa was your school. Goals. Let's finish off this conversation. I almost called you JR Cooper with talking about goals. First of all, let's start with short-term goals. You're a class of 2024 kid. You still got half of your high school career in front of you. So what are Cooper Koch's short-term goals on and off the court?
On the court, I want to win a state championship with the team. I don't think we've won a conference championship yet, so I also want to do that. Off the court, I want to put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle before I get to college, and about 2 to 3 inches.
Is there any aspect of your game specifically that you want to polish?
Definitely off the dribble finishing and creating for myself, because I know that at the next level it's gets harder and harder to score. So I'm gonna have to be able to do that better.
What are your long-term goals? I mean, obviously, I think I don't want to speak for you, but it seems like 99% of young athletes who are playing basketball at the high school level have a dream of playing in the NBA. So there's nothing wrong with that being your answer, but what are your long-term goals?
That's definitely since I've been a little kid, that's been my goal, to play in the NBA, and if not, overseas somewhere.
And I'm assuming it doesn't hurt the cause when you see Fran McCaffrey developing guys like Luka Garza, Keegan Murray, Joe Wieskamp. And Joe Wieskamp, of course, a local guy, didn't grew up real far from where you're growing up. So how much of your decision and outlook has been impacted by what Fran McCaffrey has proven from a developmental standpoint?
I think he's great at developing players for the next level, because it seems like every other year they have National Player of the Year. But he just knows what coaches are looking for and knows how to get the best out of people and getting to that goal.
One more thing I didn't mention earlier. So we talked about Brock Harding. Guy's kind of sensational on the court. Now, I did see a national sports writer said that Brock Harding is going to make Fran pull his hair out at times, but that's a good problem to have when you have a guy who is a game changer, right? He's a gamer. I want to get your initial impressions of Brock Harding on the court from what you've seen.
I don't think there's anybody that could beat him in a down and back. He's probably the fastest dude I've ever seen on the court and has the best vision. So, and when he's shooting the ball, It's lights out.
Cooper, appreciate you taking the time on the show, for jumping on. And again, I know you're busy with workouts. Congratulations. I know this is a week or a 7-day period you're never going to forget. Enjoy high school, because that's a special time, but we look forward to seeing you in the black and gold in a couple of years.
Will do. Thanks for having me on.
Such a mild-mannered kid. You love to see humility from a young guy that has had a lot of offers. I mean, he's had some nice recruiting interest. His dad certainly played at a high level, but Cooper seems to be a real mild-tempered, I should say, kid, and good-mannered. I mean, it seems like a nice young man. And certainly J.R. Koch, you wouldn't expect any less from his family. And congratulations to the Koch family. I mean, this is what I'm sure J.R. Koch has always wanted, but he did the right thing as a dad, letting Cooper go through the process. And at 6'8", I mean, he could grow another couple inches. He could end up being 6'10" with guard skills. He's got a nice shot. He kind of reminds me a bit of a younger, slightly smaller version of Jack Nunge. We see what Jack Nunge has done at Xavier. Like, Jack's got a nice 3-point stroke, and we maybe didn't see it as much as we'd have liked to at Iowa. But Cooper Koch has got a really nice jump shot. And with his ability to rebound, and I'm sure he's going to get bigger. I mean, he's going to get taller and bigger. And, he's going to have to do that to be able to defend at the Big Ten level at that size. But sky's the limit for him, and you pair him with Brock Harding, Owen Freeman at 6'10", 6'11", coming in next year from Illinois as well. Iowa football recruiting and Iowa basketball recruiting off to great starts for both of those classes. And connections never hurt. You get a guy like Cooper Koch committed early. It helps you. He's got connections, obviously, to some other guys Iowa's targeting. Those connections never hurt. Just look what's happened with Caden Proctor. His connection to Xavier Wampa certainly, I would have to think, played a role in his decision to commit to Iowa over Alabama. So congratulations again to Caden Proctor and family, Cooper and J.R. Koch and family, along with Trevor Lauk and his family. And congratulations to Iowa Athletics in a great spot here late in June as we get closer and closer to Iowa football. Keep it locked in right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Anchor, Google, wherever. Stay right here throughout the year. Hawkeye coverage, the best of the best, right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.